Hi, welcome back to another episode of Marriage Matters. And we apologize, we missed last week. We were both kind of under the weather a little bit, and I don't know what the problem was, but anyway, we just didn't get one out, so we apologize. So as we've teased out over the last, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 episodes, we're going to start a 10-part series today on the book written by a guy named Willard Harley. It's been around for a long time. There's multiple editions that are out there. It's called His Needs, Her Needs. And in the book, he outlines the 5 most important needs for a wife and the 5 most important needs for a husband in the context of marriage. Willard Harley is a marriage counselor, and so he kind of developed these over probably 20 to 25 years of exclusively helping marriages that are in crisis and helping marriages to improve. And a long time ago, probably 20 years ago?
Yeah.
20 years ago, Lori and I read this book, and it had a huge impact on us.
Yes, it did. It's really important, for married couples to understand that you can be really in love when you get married, but the mundane of every day can kind of pull away at that, and you can find that you feel like there's separation between you two. And the most important thing is to be in love. Now, we often say, well, I'm just not in love anymore. Well, you do things to make that love draft behind, just like when you were dating, right? Like Kurt would do things for me. He bought me a rose on one of our first dates, and he did all sorts of sweet things that made me feel really, really important to him. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, the doing of the things that create love.
Yeah, and it's important, and Lori said, everyone thinks that love is a feeling. It's not, it's an action. Right. Even if you think about 1 Corinthians 13, where it says love is kind. It doesn't say love feels kind, it says it is kind. That's a behavior, that's an action. It says love does not boast, right? That's an action. It doesn't do this action, and that's an indication of love. So love is an action. So for those of you that might be struggling in your marriages or whatever, our advice is to listen to these next 10 episodes and start acting. Start acting on these things. And we know that the love will draft behind that. The feeling will draft behind that.
Absolutely. And you'll be amazed at some of these things that it's interesting that it really comes down to 5 basic needs for the husband and 5 basic needs for the wife. But you'll be impressed by how important it is. And I know when Kurt and I were reading the book, it's like chapter by chapter, a his need and her need. And we would talk about it, and we would say, gee, is that really that important to you? And the response was, yeah, it's like super important. And we were just like, oh, lights on in the house now.
Yeah, and really what we do, this was funny, because we didn't want to get into a rut. We wanted to stay passionate as we were when we were first married. And so as unromantic and as unpassionate as this sounds, every month we would have a dinner, we'd go on a date, and I'd ask Lori, all right, how am I doing against those 5 important needs that you have? And she'd ask the same. And so we kind of kept score on each other, so to speak. And one last thought before we get into the first need of the wife. These are needs that must be met in marriage. Don't your spouse, give your spouse exclusivity in meeting these needs. Don't gloss over that statement. These should only be met in marriage, and you should give your spouse exclusivity. If you meet these needs outside of marriage, it's going to erode and potentially destroy your marriage.
In fact, like the subtitle, I think, to the book is How to Divorce-Proof Your Marriage. So that goes along with it has to be exclusive.
Right.
So you have to think it's a strange way to think of it maybe, but you have to think of it as each of you have a love bank. And things that we do either makes a deposit or a withdrawal on the love bank. So the first thing you need to understand for a woman, her probably most highest rated need is going to be affection. Because affection sends this message that you care, that you're important, that you're concerned about the problems that she faces.
Yeah, and guys, listen up here, like pay attention. So take notes, put your phone down. I know you're trying to multitask. But it's affection without the expectation of sex.
Yes.
It's affection without the expectation of physical intimacy, right? And so too many times guys get all huggy and, well, let me put my arm around you, because they're trying to set up for the evening where there might be sex or physical intimacy. That's not what this is. This is genuine, authentic affection without the expectation of sex.
Absolutely. So your wife, if she's receiving adequate amounts of affection, and those are big deposits in her love bank, she's going to actually be a lot more interested. Now, don't do it for the sake of making sure that she's interested. You want to do it because it's a need of hers, and you want to be filling her need. It's a way of serving her. This is how we serve each other. We try to fill each other's needs.
Yeah, and so guys, you need to, like a lot of us, need to learn how to be affectionate. This is something, it's a learned behavior. And so we're going to try to unpack that just a little bit more. So Lori, what does affection look like?
Well, affection looks like you're hugging me or kissing me for no reason, that you tell me that you care about me. You might call me during the day when you're gone, and that tells me that you're thinking about me, that you care about me. You can help me with the dishes or dinner, which you already do. So, and really, it's fun when we can do it together, but you do the cooking and I'll do the dishes. But it's fun when we do both of them together. Surprising me with flowers or gifts is really cool. Holding my hand when we're out and about, or just cuddling me on the couch.
Yeah, and just even things like when we go to church, we'll put our arms entwined while we're sitting listening to the message, or we'll hold hands, during church. There's plenty of opportunity to show affection, but to be clear, affection is awfully important. When you were first dating, and I mean, think about this. You didn't hey, nice to meet you. Let's go let's go be intimate. No, you held hands. You put your arm around her. You did a lot of things to show her affection, knowing full well that you weren't going to be intimate. So reprise those things. Do those things again. Just because you're married, just because you convinced her, you tricked her. You tricked her with all that affection to get her to say yes, and then you quit being affectionate.
Not
Sorry.
wrong.
Yeah, so reprise that. Bring it back.
Understand that sex will begin with affection. If you want to have that portion of your marriage to be singing a sweet song, then you need to start singing the sweet song of affection.
Yeah, and guys, just as you prefer your wife's sexual response to you to be spontaneous, a wife's preference is for her husband to show affection spontaneously. And so, guys, just for no good reason, just be affectionate. And as Lori said, this is the number one need for a wife is affection, and it deepens her connection, to you as a husband. And so we're not going to have a corresponding devotion. Instead, we're going to give you 3 questions for guys to ponder, 3 questions for wives to ponder, and then 3 questions for you guys to kind of work on together. So guys, here's question number 1. And be aware. And by the way, you can get opinions from your wife on this. She actually might be really good to help you with this question, which is scale of 1 to 10. 10 being you're an absolute rock star, can't do it any better. 1 meaning you need to buy the book called Affection for Dummies. On a scale of 1, by the way, I don't know if that book exists. A scale of 1 to 10, so don't go on Amazon looking for it. A scale of 1 to 10, how affectionate are you with your wife? How affectionate are you with your wife? Scale of 1 to 10. And then, in what specific ways do you show affection? I know this is going to be mind-blowing to some of you guys, but when you walk through the kitchen, to grab the chips or whatever, and you grab your wife's rear end, that may not, I know this is astonishing, that may not be her favorite form of affection. As like mind-blowing as that might be to some of us, that might not do it. So think about like letting her, and this is the 3rd question, do you let her coach you on how she likes to receive affection, what she likes best in receiving affection?
And questions for the wife are, how important is affection to you? Maybe it isn't that important to you, but most women it really is. If you're not getting the kind of affection that you would like to get from your husband, are you willing to coach him? Would more affection be a spark to you to make you be more interested in physical intimacy? These are some questions you need to ponder and discuss together.
Yeah, and then finally, here's some conversation that you can have together. Right? Do you need to show more affection to each other? Is that missing in your relationship? Is that need not being met for your wife? And then second, is there a reluctance to show affection? If so, why? What's preventing that? And then finally, make a list of affectionate habits to create. I mean, they say 21 days to a habit, right? So what are the affectionate habits that are meaningful to your wife, and start doing those on a regular basis? And then what about the ones to avoid? Ones that she doesn't view as affectionate as much as you might think they are. So those are the conversations to have together, with 3 questions for him, 3 questions for her, and then 3 questions that you guys can talk about together. So next week, this is the teaser. Next week we're going to cover the most important need for the man,
for the
husband. Just a wild guess. I bet it's physical intimacy.
I bet you're right. Do you think we'll get more viewers?
Well, the last time we did one on sex, we got over 300, which I don't know. That just seems wrong. Anyway, so next week we're going to talk about the most important need for a guy. We love you guys, and just remember,
your marriage matters.